Hello, basketball people, we have news. Let's go to more news about the Golden State Warriors. I ask you to give a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel, as I am a Warriors fan. In the past, the Warriors have shown interest in Anthony Davis, but were unable to sign him. It would be time to risk a blockbuster trade and bring Davis in. To match salaries, they would have two options. Option 1, send Buddy Hield, Jonathan Kuminga, Moses Moody, and Gary Payton II for Anthony Davis, if the Dallas Mavericks accept this trade. Option 2, directly trade Jimmy Butler for Anthony Davis. Option 1 would be better. Even if the Warriors send 4 players, they could still sign good free agents for the rotation. Anthony Davis would solve a lot of the Golden State Warriors' problems. Landing Anthony Davis might seem like a controversial idea for Warriors fans, but his arrival could galvanize them to make a deep run next season. Several teams could make a move for Davis if the Mavericks decide to trade him. However, few teams have as much of a case for making the trade as the Golden State Warriors. Firstly, Davis could help the Warriors address their long-standing size problem. At 6 feet 11 inches, Davis can play at the power forward or the center position. He would get them the rim protection and defense that they so sorely need. Furthermore, while Davis might not be a spring chicken, he is still younger than the Warriors' 3 best players. He could provide the Warriors with a transition piece that allows them to move on from Stephen Curry and find their next franchise star while still being competitive. DeMarcus Cousins calls for Anthony Davis to Golden State Warriors trade, fans respond. Former Golden State Warriors center DeMarcus Cousins took to X to share his thoughts on a potential trade that would send Anthony Davis to San Francisco. The former NBA champion wrote, "AD to the Warriors would be interesting." Of course, Davis is currently considered a potential trade asset after the Dallas Mavericks fired Nico Harrison, the man who brought him in. However, despite Davis's talent, Warriors fans aren't all that enthused about the idea. One fan wrote, "I'm a Warriors fan and would love to have him if he wasn't hurt all of the time and didn't have that big price tag." Another fan added, "And for what? They aren't trading Steph, Jimmy, or Draymond. GSW doesn't have a way to match the $54 million AD makes because if they do, they are left with 6 to 7 players." One frustrated Warriors fan wrote, "AD would be good, but he's literally injured every 2 months." But not all Warriors fans agree, as another fan wrote, "It would solve a problem that we've had for the last couple years of not having any size." One Warriors fan would accept the trade on one condition, noting, "Only if he can be healthy. He could be a force on the team." Another fan identified the assets they would trade, admitting, "It's time the Warriors let go of Pods and JK in that trade." Stephen Curry reels off 49 points as Warriors rally past Spurs. Stephen Curry capped a season-best, 49 points performance by sinking the game-winning free throws in the final seconds as the visiting Golden State Warriors outlasted the San Antonio Spurs 109-108 on Friday in an NBA Cup clash. The Warriors swept a 2-game mini-series in San Antonio over 3 nights and won for the 3rd time in their past 4 games overall. Golden State improved to 1-1 in West Group C play in the league's in-season tournament, while the Spurs fell to 1-1. San Antonio led by 10 early in the 4th quarter before Curry, Gary Payton II and Brandon Podziemski shot Golden State back in front at 101-100 with 3:37 remaining. Spurs star Victor Wembanyama jumped over a defender for a tip-in to expand the lead to 108-105 with 1:06 left. Jimmy Butler three's layup cut the gap to a point, and after a stunning block by Wembanyama and a miss by the Spurs' De'Aaron Fox, Curry drove the lane and was fouled with 6.4 seconds to play. Curry made both free throws. After a timeout, San Antonio went back to Fox, whose contested jumper at the buzzer bounced twice on the rim before falling away. Butler finished with 21 points while Will Richard and Podziemski added 10 each for the Warriors. Wembanyama led San Antonio with 26 points and 12 rebounds, and Fox had 24 points and 10 assists. Julian Champagny added 14 points, and Stephon Castle and Devin Vassell hit for 13 and 11, respectively. San Antonio enjoyed a 20-18 advantage after 12 minutes of play. Golden State knotted the game at 28 on Quinton Post's three-pointer with 8:40 to play in the second quarter. The Warriors grabbed a lead thanks to their long-distance shooting, as three-pointers by Curry and Podziemski and two from Richard put Golden State up 40-33. San Antonio closed the half on a 10-4 run to get within 47-45 at the break. Curry's 18 points led all scorers before halftime. Fox paced the Spurs with 14 first-half points. Golden State used a 14-6 run to take a 68-66 lead with 3:36 to play in the third. The surge was capped by highlight reel bank shot from Curry, who was fouled on the attempt and completed a three-point play. Warriors' most incompatible players are the ones who were drafted together. Jonathan Kuminga and Moses Moody haven't played well together when sharing the court for the Golden State Warriors this season. The Golden State Warriors have stalled out a bit this season, and their two most incompatible players are the two guys they drafted together in the 2021 NBA Draft, Jonathan Kuminga and Moses Moody. They haven't played well when on the court together, yet the Warriors have found success with one of the other on the hardwood. With Kuminga in the lineup next to Stephen Curry, Brandon Podziemski, Jimmy Butler, and Draymond Green, the five-man group ranks in the 86th percentile in net rating. Meanwhile, the Warriors are in the 96th percentile with Moody on the court and without Kuminga. However, the two-man lineup of Kuminga and Moody on the court together ranks in just the 14th percentile in net rating. It's a pretty wild drop-off. How are Jonathan Kuminga and Moses Moody? For the first time all season, Steve Kerr decided to keep Kuminga out of the starting lineup in their November 12 game against the San Antonio Spurs. Unfortunately, he had to leave the game due to a knee injury after playing just 12 minutes. Meanwhile, even though Kuminga has been playing more minutes per game this season, Moody has also been a staple of the Warriors' rotation on a night-to-night basis. So far this year, Kuminga has appeared in all 13 of the Warriors' games, racking up 12 starts and playing 27.7 minutes per contest. He has averaged 13.8 points, 6.6 rebounds, and 2.8 assists while shooting 47.8% from the floor and 32.4% from deep on 2.8 three-point attempts per contest. As for Moody, he has appeared in 11 of the Warriors' games, starting 3 of them and playing 22.9 minutes per contest. He has averaged 12.3 points, 2.6 rebounds, and 1.6 assists while shooting 42.7% from the field and 44.3% from distance on 6.4 three-point attempts per game. Both have turned themselves into very quality role players for the Warriors, who undoubtedly have title expectations this season with Curry, Butler, Green, and Al Horford leading the way. Unfortunately for Kerr, when Kuminga and Moody have been on the court together, things haven't gone well for the Warriors. For right now, that isn't too big of a deal, especially if Kerr can keep lineups on the floor that only feature one or the other. With the depth they have on the roster, Golden State can compete for a championship. Herb Jones might be a realistic target in a Jonathan Kuminga trade. Jones only signed an extension with the Jazz in July, but perhaps their disastrous 2-9 start to the season has them considering a myriad of moves that might include trading their defensive wing. Golden State reportedly had interest in another Pelicans wing Trey Murphy III during the offseason, but Kawakami believes it's Jones who's the more realistic target from the embattled franchise. Basically, Jones is the lesser version of the perfect trade candidate for Kuminga. I think this is about the realistic line for what the Warriors could get for Kuminga in January. Is Jones enough? He's probably right on the borderline, Kawakami wrote. Jones makes just $13.9 million this season and $14.9 million next season, before his 3-year, $68 million extension kicks in. That means the Warriors would likely take back another contract in addition to Jones, as opposed to looking at Murphy, who sits right around Kuminga's $22.5 million salary. Jones doesn't have the same offensive talent or skill set as Murphy, but his 3-and-D skill set is arguably a better fit alongside Stephen Curry and Jimmy Butler depending on what you think Golden State needs. After being limited to just 20 games last season due to injury, Jones has now appeared and started in all 11 games to start this campaign. The 27-year-old is averaging 10.2 points, 3.6 rebounds, 2.5 assists and 1.4 steals in 30.4 minutes, shooting a career-high 43.8% from three-point range on 4.4 attempts per game. Jones might not be a sexy return for Kuminga in terms of dynamic scoring, but he could be equally as valuable to the team's hopes of rising into championship contention with the core trio of Curry, Butler, and Draymond Green. Whether the Pelicans have interest in Kuminga is a completely different story, and may be reliant on the franchise-moving former number 1 overall pick Zion Williamson given the overlapping skill set of both players. There's one painful reason why an Andrew Wiggins reunion is impossible for Warriors. The Heat just aren't as interested in Jonathan Kuminga as they would need to be. The Golden State Warriors, who have already seen their fair share of dramatic highs and lows through the earliest portions of their season, are certainly going to be among the teams that are aggressive on this year's trade market, especially given the urgency surrounding their limited championship window. Yet, according to Warriors beat reporter Tim Kawakami of the SF Standard, one of their ideal trade targets, former Warrior Andrew Wiggins of the Miami Heat, could be unavailable to them as a result of the Heat's apparent disinterest in the team's most tradable asset, Jonathan Kuminga. Wiggins, as both a dynamic scorer and a capable defender, would ironically complement Golden State's current veteran lineup almost perfectly. However, as long as Miami is competitive and Wiggins remains one of their most important players, it would be unwise to expect them to change their stance on Kuminga, effectively eliminating any possibility of a reunion. Jonathan Kuminga has not yet resurrected his value on the trade market. As the Warriors attempted to navigate Kuminga's contentious restricted free agent this past offseason, one of the major hurdles they faced was the relative lack of interest around the league in paying the organization's price for a sign-and trade. Although the Heat were among the teams that were initially rumored to have interest, Golden State ultimately only received 2 concrete offers, from the Phoenix Suns and the Sacramento Kings, both of which were subpar. Now, his 2-year, $46.8 million contract is, in theory, the team's most valuable trade chip given the salary-matching capabilities it carries. The difficult part is that Kuminga will need to play well enough to garner interest from teams willing to take on that salary. While he got out to a scorching hot start to the season, his last few games have seen him return to the inconsistent play that limited his value last offseason. Over his past 6 games, Kuminga has averaged just 9.5 points, 6 rebounds, and 2.3 assists while shooting 40% from the field. Although these averages do include his last matchup, in which he only played 12 minutes after injuring his knee, these numbers will not be enough to draw in the demand the Warriors need if they were to try to trade Kuminga this season. The painful part is that Wiggins might be exactly what this team needs. Through his first 12 games this season, he's averaged 17.8 points, 4.8 rebounds, and 2.8 assists, shooting 40% from three-point range and playing an integral part on an ascendant Heat team. Sadly, the Warriors may need to look elsewhere this season as they attempt to bolster their championship hopes through the trade market. Draymond Green sets the record straight on which young Warriors he called out. Draymond turned to speaking in the third person on. The Golden State Warriors went through a rough patch recently. Draymond Green, one of the veterans and leaders of the team, was thought to have called out some young players amidst this stretch, but he set the record straight on his podcast. Many people assumed that Green made comments that were critical of young players Brandon Podziemski and Jonathan Kuminga when he said that personal agendas seemed to be getting in the way of the overall goal of winning. Draymond Green sets the record straight on his recent comments. Green spoke on the difference between the solid stretch the team had last season after trading for Jimmy Butler, versus their play during the rough stretch where they lost 5 of 7 games following a 4-1 start. "I think everybody was committed to winning and doing that any way possible. And right now, it doesn't feel that way," Green said. Green claims that he was not calling out anyone in particular with these remarks, taking to his podcast to explain what his intention was with the comments. People saying, "Oh man, Draymond is blaming the young guys." When in my statement that I made, I said I actually go and blame myself. Watch out, we have unleashed third-person Draymond. You don't have to ever interpret what you think Draymond is saying. Green seems to be referencing the comments he made after the team's rough showing against the Denver Nuggets when they got blown out. Green did accept blame for the team's poor defensive showing in that game, but in the clip he did not address the comments he made following the team's embarrassing loss to the Oklahoma City Thunder, which is when people thought he was taking subtle swipes at the young guys. However, Green is far from the only one to be accused of calling out young players. Warriors head coach Steve Kerr said that the younger players needed some fire in the belly after that tough loss against Denver. Clearly, the veterans were seeing things from the young guys that they were not thrilled with. Podziemski, Kuminga, and Moses Moody have all struggled at times through the team's tough stretch, and the Warriors know they are going to have to lean on them at times when the veterans are injured or resting on the bench. Even if Green denies it, he knows that his words carry a lot of weight and are going to be interpreted a certain way when the team is struggling. Perhaps it's not the worst thing to have a little tough love for the young guys, and demanding more from them may be the way to get the most from them going forward. Analysts' wild trade pitch for next Curry co-star would be an absolute disaster. Anthony Davis is not the answer. Stephen Curry has given the Golden State Warriors reasons to believe he can still lead a championship run. Folks are wondering whether they might, in turn, try giving him a high-end co-star to help him contend for the NBA crown. The strategy seems relatively sound, since it could be another lifetime before the franchise finds another star of Curry's caliber, but only for the right co-star. There are certain elites who'd qualify, but the seemingly available Anthony Davis is not one. There are red flag warnings and basketball reasons for the Dubs not to pursue Davis. With the Nico Harrison-less Mavericks perhaps ready to reset around number 1 pick Cooper Flagg, Davis's name is buzzing around the trade rumor mill. CBS Sports' Sam Quinn recently ranked all 29 teams as possible landing spots for the Brow and somehow wound up with the Warriors at number 1. That is, respectfully speaking, a wild read on the situation, and that's before getting into the colossal cost of the potential deal. Quinn paved 2 paths for the Warriors to take to Davis, sending out a package of Jonathan Kuminga, Draymond Green, and either Moses Moody or Buddy Hield, or sacrificing Curry's current co-star, Jimmy Butler, and draft picks. Just focusing on the principal players involved, Green is an identity-shaping foundational force, while Butler has been a walking confidence booster, an all-purpose need filler, and an offensive hub during the non-Curry minutes. For the Warriors to even consider cutting ties with such a critical player, they'd have to be near certain that the reward would be worth all of the risk. Where would they find that confidence in Davis? He's had a detailed injury history, and those problems aren't going away as he probes deeper into his 30s. His $54.1 million salary is already burdensome, and if he inks an extension off of this deal, it's almost guaranteed to age like spoiled milk. The contract alone might frighten off the Warriors, who need to nail every dollar spent around Curry. But giving up key contributors for the right to pay Davis $50 million plus for part-time stardom? That has to be a deal-breaker for the Dubs. In case it's not, are we sure Davis even fits what the Warriors want to do? He's skilled enough to figure it out, but he wouldn't be the best version of himself. He's an electric pick-and-roll player, but head coach Steve Kerr likes his offense to be more open than that. Davis could technically fit into the switch-heavy defensive scheme, but if you're worried about his health already, do you really want him trying to cover that much real estate? And what about the locker room? Green is a tone-setter who has long given this group its edge. Butler is a natural leader, especially when he's satisfied with his pay rate. Losing either would shock the chemistry of this club. It's risk upon risk, worry after, and all of this for a player who, if everything breaks absolutely right, probably can't be more than the second or third best player on a championship team. This can't possibly be the go-for-broke blockbuster that Golden State has saved all of its assets to broker.